Tashirele, Lama Rigzinandro. Another impromptu video, something I promised myself I would stop doing. But I had a conversation with somebody today, and it's not a new conversation. I yet again heard another very dedicated practitioner who put many years into the Dharma say that they were walking away from following the Dharma, from believing in scripture, from all of it because of the actions of lamas. And namely, I apologize, Himalayan, Tibetan, maybe Bhutanese lamas. And the reason is because of advertising. Because if someone is a monk, most especially, but even a Nokpa, like myself, the advertisement tells you, oh, these people are totally perfect and flawless and infinitely benevolent and not capable of having selfish motives. And though that is true for some of us, it is certainly not true for the majority of us, and it is certainly not true even for those that may be true of. In most circumstances, there are still karmic sticking points, even for those who have entered the mandala of enlightenment, because even once someone realizes the two bodhicittas and enters into the mandala, they still have a great deal of work to do. And if they didn't, they would dissolve into light, and that would be it. No one could argue and say this person has any karma left. As long as the body is here, it means that there is karma that's keeping the body stuck here. That's not the point, though. The point is that we, as lamas, as senior practitioners, are failing to warn people of the potential pain, pitfalls, feelings of betrayal. There's a particular word I'm searching for, I can't find at the moment. The whole issue of being shocked into the realization that your lama is human when you've been thinking of them as God, which is just a flaw of Lamaism. And it's like, it's very much solved in certain lineages. The Dujin lineage is a very good example. It's right in the prayer to Khan Lama from afar, that other than my own perfect mind, I could not find my Lama. It's right there in black and white. That the Buddha nature is the end all be all of refuge. But every Lama has an absolute, and I mean, it just goes down the line in terms of how many people fail to do this, has an absolute responsibility to reference scripture when they offer opinion, no matter what advice they give to beings on anything, however worldly. If you're not going back and referencing Shanideva or Longchenpa or whomever, Pamalingpa, whoever, you must reference scripture. You must reference Pranjana Paramita. You must reference, Mahayana, Hinayana, Tantra. You must reference what's written and not give people the impression that you are the voice of God and that everything that comes out of your mouth is in itself scripture. It's not the case, and it very much it very much injures people, and it's pushing people away from the Dharma. And this whole notion of like toku is something I've tried to avoid completely because it's so fraught. You know, uh, someone gets recognized as a toku, and all of a sudden, oh, they're the deity, and it's like you can believe that for the sake of your own faith, because faith is doing the heavy lifting. It's faith is what is making people enlightened, not the object of faith. By having faith, you are igniting the fire of the heart, which leads to realization. It's not the object of faith which is important, which is actually illustrated in the story of the dog's tooth, which, if you don't know it, a woman, after many years of bothering her son, uh, threatened the worst, uh, because he constantly went to India, threatened the worst, that if he didn't come back from India with a relic of the Buddha, that, she would do the worst. And he came back and he realized, oh, I didn't bring anything. And he just grabs a tooth from a dead dog that's like in the alley on the way to his house, and he says, oh, this is the tooth of the Buddha. She prays to that tooth for her whole life, gains enlightenment, and that tooth is now enshrined in a temple as a genuine relic. Faith is doing the heavy lifting. Dedicating yourself to another being, another human being, without educating yourself on scripture and without being wary of the human qualities of human beings will get you hurt. And it will end in you being utterly disappointed. Because even if that person is in fact acting in wisdom, your perception alone can show you flaws where there aren't flaws. And that is enough to disturb you. You must pray to a deity that's on a tanka. You must pray to a seed syllable, or tigle, or yidam, or dakini, or guru, in the sense of like guru mache gompopa, like Milarepa, Naropa, like the cities of the origins of Gelug and the Shangpa, the Shakya, like Machi Glabdron, these beings that have passed away, that can no longer disappoint you, and you can see it's wholly pure because they are reflections of everything that is perfect within yourself and are helping to be a mirror for your own perfection. That is how you reveal the enlightenment within yourself. It's not by toiling away and being another human being's slave. And frankly, that's how it's advertised. And I know even amongst senior practitioners like myself, many of us, have a level of karma around feeling used. Because, they go around telling you, oh, like, give the best years of your life and, oh, we swear you'll be taken care of. And it's an outright lie. You'll just be discarded. You'll get too old, and then they'll replace you with somebody who's younger who can do the job. Like any other form of capitalism. It's like people need things done. And they employ what methods they have to get them done. And when they don't have money, they tempt people with other things, unfortunately. So, stop. Stop pretending Stop pretending like because you're a Rinpoche or a High Lama that you're faultless. Stop pretending like the Dharma Dhatu, the Buddha nature, the grace of the Buddha, as it says in the first lines of Shantideva's Way of the Bodhisattva. It says, briefly, by the Buddha's power, goodness arises within the minds of beings. By the Buddha's power. In other words, everything good that happens is a result of the Buddha nature. Everything positive in the world is the blessing of the Buddha himself. There is no such thing as another human being gifting goodness. If you receive an empowerment, it is not the Lama who gives the empowerment, but the deity acting through the Lama who gives the empowerment. I was scolded one time when I asked one Lama, who was an honest and decent Lama, and we had a falling out, but that does not negate the power of his and strength of his truthful words, which is, I did not give that empowerment, Guru Rinpoche gave that empowerment. He was humble enough to not take credit for something which would have been totally usable as fuel to manipulate me or get me to do whatever he wanted, because I truly believed that I had received this life-changing blessing from another human being, and he was honest enough to give the credit to enlightened beings, to deity, to Buddha nature, and not to the human flesh bag of a human being. We are inherently flawed creatures, whether we like it or not. Even if we intend to do good, we cannot be sure that what we do will in fact be good. And so we have to follow our hearts and do our best and try. But putting yourself out there and even allowing, even tolerating your students venerating you as some sort of deity is causing people to turn away from their faith and to look at the Dharma with resentment and hatred and disgust because of the disgusting actions of human beings, not because of any flaw in the Dharma, because childish beings don't know how to discern between the Lama, especially when they are told Lama is Dharmakaya, Sambhogakaya, Nirmanakaya, Lama is Buddha Dharma Sangha, Lama is Guru Yidam Dakini, Lama is the Dharmapala, Lama is the, the all of it, the greatness. When they hear that over and over, and someone doesn't instantly chide them and correct them for mistaking a human being as the infinite goodness that undergirds all reality, bad things happen because these people start to warp their minds into expecting perfection from these people, and that is not something human beings can possibly live up to. So please, please, please stop. If you're a follower of someone you believe to be the Buddha, hold that as the essence of the being, the essence of the person is the Buddha, not the flesh, bones, and blood, not the actions, but the intentions, the inner secret Lama. Even if it's outer Lama, it has to be the secret portion of the outer Lama. And if you are a Lama, please, 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 I beg you, regularly tell your practitioners that the Buddha is the nature of their own mind and nothing else. And that scripture is there to guide them to know how close or far away they are from seeing that in its perfect totality. And the human Lama is there to provide a connection to the scripture that is a living, breathing connection of a lineage which has been passed down either through 1, 2, 3, 4, however many generations from the original Buddha that gave the teaching to them. It is there for temdrel, for karmic interdependence and the blessing or sort of leverage, the fulcrum of interdependence. The ability to mechanically leverage karma to create a more powerful result. Receiving a teaching from a Lama is more powerful than receiving a teaching from a book, unless one's devotion to the author of that book is exceptional, which would be the case for someone like Pema Lingpa, who received the entirety of his tradition from the long passed away, Longchenpa. But again, because he was passed away, he did not have to vie and wrestle and deal with the he did not have to deal with the flaws. He didn't have to deal with the idiosyncrasies. He could see Longchenpa as absolutely perfect, and there was no way for Longchenpa to mess that up simply by being himself and clashing egos with his students. Unless you are a siddha on the level of Guru Rinpoche or Milarepa and can produce unfathomable miracles like putting your hands through stones, dissolving the body into light, producing multiple bodies in multiple places. Unless you are that level of siddha, you must remind your students that the Buddha abides in their heart as Vajrasattva, as primordial purity. Otherwise, one day, you'll get up on the wrong side of the bed, you'll do something without intending to do it, you'll say something without intending anything by it, but that person has been taking damage because they've been noticing things they would rather not notice, and they've been holding themselves in denial because they've been told to lose faith in the Lama is the worst karma ever, and they believe the Lama is you, the flesh and blood human, not the deeper essence of your Buddha nature. One Nimapa Lama, who was asked You know, he said, I see all beings as the Buddha and all their activities as the activities of Buddhas. And he was Nyingma. And at the time, Pabanka Rinpoche was famous for uh, dismantling or converting Nyingma temples into Gelugpa temples, which is the destruction of their religion, essentially. And so he said, well, what about Pabanka Rinpoche? Do you see him as a Buddha? And do you, would you take refuge in Pabanka Rinpoche? And he said, I take refuge in his enlightened mind, not the human being, not his actions, not the person, the undergirding essence that exists within all appearances. Emptiness is form, form is emptiness. Everything arises from wisdom. It is in its essence wisdom, but so long as we have a body, we will come into conflict with the world, because some things are harmful to the body and the ego, which is the protector of the body, and some things are helpful. That is good and evil in a nutshell. What is extremely harmful is evil, what is extremely helpful is good. And that is a totally subjective lens. And it cannot be transcended until one has reached an extremely enlightened stage. And I do mean extremely enlightened stage. We are talking hardcore cities, not merely having a window into the two bodhicittas, not merely having given rise to Rigpa, but having stabilized it on the level where the ego no longer exists at all. But even in that state, because of the flaw that is the perception of beings, they can be completely disheartened and turned away from the Dharma if they are counting on the human being to be perfect, to be the Buddha. The Buddha must always be relegated to the Tanka, to the scripture, to the Buddha nature. Don't allow human beings to believe the Buddha is a human being, because the flawed perception of beings will see flaws even where there are no flaws. So even a flawless being can be seen as flawed and can cause havoc in the minds of the faithful, regardless of the qualities of the Lama. Tell them to see Guru Rinpoche, Gampopa, Milarepa, Machi Labdrum, whatever city is long gone, long past, or left this world, and can be seen in their utter perfection without the conflict and contravention of their actual presence, so that the mind and the ego can interact with that image within them as the lighthouse, as the beacon of enlightenment that draws them towards their better nature. Otherwise, they can see the human Lama exhibit something which is absolutely negative, absolutely a flaw, absolutely something that Lama is actually very much trying to purify in themselves. And they can attach that as like wisdom activity. I've seen that. I've done that. You know, most of my lamas had anger issues, and so I thought being wrathful, quote unquote, was just part of acting enlightened, and I emulated that, and I was a real jerk, and I was really awful to a lot of people, and I very much suffered the consequences in my health and well-being later in life, because anger, no matter what the intention or what fantastical trance you put yourself in, where you think you're this deity or that deity, anger is anger. Wisdom anger isn't does not appear as anger. It is love that pierces through anger. Like the deity Yamantaka is the destroyer of death, wisdom anger is the destroyer of anger. It is not its equal. It is not its synonym. It is not its analog. Its opposite. It is actually a completely transcendent and a completely transcendent activity. It cannot be ascribed to actual worldly activity. It is something that happens within the realm of wisdom. If your Lama is angry, and I have angry Lamas, it can be a teaching style, it can be a mode, but it has its consequences, because I've watched people lose faith listening to my Lamas be angry, because they felt like, that Lama shouldn't treat people that way, or that Lama shouldn't treat me that way. And so now I don't believe in Lamas, because that's how human beings are. Just look at Christianity. How many atheists exist simply because, some Christians were hypocritical. And it's like, did you think that being a Christian was somehow this magic pill that made you perfect? Or is it a philosophy, a way of thinking, a way of engaging with something, quote, greater than yourself, that could take a lifetime to show its effects? But that's how the ego works. It sees one little bit of evidence. You can see this in dreams. You're like, you dream something that's absolutely impossible, and your ego will just go, yeah, that's how reality works. It doesn't need heaps of evidence to jump to bad conclusions, to jump to deluded conclusions. It doesn't need heaps of evidence to be completely put off of the greatest gift in life, which is connection to God, connection to infinite virtue that frees us from conflict, drama, suffering. I'm not perfect. No human Lama is perfect. And even the ones that are should not tolerate people believing so. I'm Nimapa, so forgive me for excluding other lineages, but in my mind, Guru Rinpoche is perfect. Guru Rinpoche is the Lama. Guru Rinpoche is that brief flash of lightning that allows goodness to arise in the mind of beings. He is the Dharmadhatu, the source of all positivity. I cannot be good. Goodness comes from Guru Rinpoche's work through me. I have no good qualities. Nobody has any good qualities but by the grace of God, brought by the blessings of the Guru. This is the truth. Tell me I'm lying. I wish you the best. I love you. I have no need of approval or disapproval. I have no need of being believed or disbelieved. I have no need for people to wish to be my student or not to wish to be my student. I pray and wish that this helps someone somehow. Like most people on YouTube, I am merely screaming into the digital abyss, and it will come to nothing and mean nothing, but hopefully the Guru empowers my intentions to be heard within the hearts of those lamas who have the ability to change things. And if not, I will do my best to change things from my end. I love you all. Be happy.